Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Ko and welcome to my channel where I share the latest research in education. Let me start with a simple question. When was the last time your child touched dirt or picked up a stick and built something with it? Climbed a tree? Or ran around in the rain? If you're having trouble remembering, I think today's video is going to mean something to you. The study I am sharing today was published in March 2026 in an international academic journal called Education Sciences. It was conducted at a public primary school in Sydney, Australia. And the question the researchers were asking was simple. Does playing in nature actually help children learn and grow? Here's how the study worked. The researchers took 50 first-grade students and divided them into two groups. 25 children were placed in the nature play group. The other 25 were the comparison group. The nature play group went out to a nearby park once a week for 10 weeks. Each session was 2 hours long. The children climbed trees, played in mud, built shelters out of sticks, and explored the grass and bushes. And here's what made it different from a typical school activity. The adults did not give instructions. The children decided for themselves what they want to do. The comparison group stayed in the classroom for the same period of time and continued with their regular lessons. After 10 weeks, the researchers compared the two groups. They looked at math and reading scores, emotional well-being, school engagement, and the children's connection to nature. And then they checked again 4 months later to see whether the changes were temporary or whether they actually lasted. Now, I want to be honest with you. This was a small study, only 50 children. The researchers themselves acknowledged that. But here's why it still matters. These children were from the same school, the same age group, and the same curriculum. The only thing that was different was this one experience playing freely in nature. And that one difference produced some very interesting results. What did the research find? First, there was a clear difference in math. Both groups improved in reading at about the same rate, but math was a different story. The nature play group showed meaningful improvements in their math scores. The comparison group showed no change at all. Why would playing outside affect math? Well, when you look at what the children were actually doing, it starts to make sense. They were balancing on logs, which involves calculating weight and space. They were building shelters, which requires planning and structure. They were counting and stacking rocks and pine cones. They were thinking mathematically without ever opening a textbook. One of the teachers described the outdoor environment as a living classroom that never stops changing. Second, there were deep changes in relationships and emotions. The teachers described the nature play group as feeling like a little family. Children who had struggled to connect with others in the classroom naturally became friends while building shelters and exploring together. Even more striking, children who were often anxious or distracted in class were able to focus for long periods of time in nature and to manage their own emotions. One teacher said, "I had never seen that child concentrate for so long," and those changes carried over back into the classroom. The comparison group also showed some improvements in peer relationships, but it was more temporary. It did not have the same depth or consistency as what the nature play group experienced. Third, the children developed a lasting love for nature. even 10 weeks after the program ended, and even 4 months later, the nature playgroup maintained their positive feelings about being in nature. One child said, "The tree looked sad, so I talked to it." Another said, "Nature is everything to me. When I'm here, I feel like I'm home." In contrast, the small positive changes seen in the comparison group fades over time. Now, there were 3 key conditions that produced these changes in the study. A nature space, the freedom for children to make their own choices, and repeated experience over time. None of these require a special program in Australia. They are possible at a neighborhood park or even beside a small garden outside an apartment building. First, open up nature as a place to play. Let your children touch dirt, pick up sticks, and stalk rocks. It's okay if their clothes get dirty. In those moments, their brains are working hard. The math gains in this study grew out of exactly those kinds of sensory, exploratory experiences. Math does not only grow from workbooks, it also grows from the body. Second, let your child make their own decisions. This was the most essential condition in the study. When you go to the park, try saying just one sentence to your child. "Today, you can do whatever you want." At first, they might not know what to do. They might just wander around for a while. Please stay with that. That awkward moment is actually the beginning of something important. When children get to decide for themselves, they build focus, problem-solving skills, and confidence, all at the same time. Sometimes stepping back as a parent is what allows your child to step forward. Third, spend time together in nature. The most powerful protective factor in this study was not a technique or a program. It was relationship. And nature, it turns out, is a wonderful space for building relationship. Looking at the same tree together, listening to the same bird, looking up at the same cloud. That shared gaze builds connection. When you put down your phone and look in the same direction as your child, that becomes one of the strongest forms of support you can give them. Fourth, repeat small experiences regularly. The reason the nature playgroups changes lasted through 4 months of follow-up was the repetition. The same park, once a week, for 10 weeks. One special outing is meaningful, but walking together at the neighborhood park every week leaves something deeper. Small, repeated experiences are what plant real roots. Over time, they grow into a lasting sense of wonder and love for the natural world. If there is one thing I hope you take from today's video, it is this. Giving your child nature and freedom is one of the simplest and most powerful ways to grow their mind, their heart, and their relationships all at the same time. Our children are learning so many things right now: math, English, music, coding. But maybe the most important lesson is the one that has not made it onto any school or academic schedule yet. The lesson of walking on soil, feeling the wind, and looking up at the sky. In the Christian tradition, nature has been called God's second book. If the Bible helps us know God through His Word, then nature helps us feel His hands through the world He made. As Deuteronomy chapter 6 reminds us, the deepest teaching happens not in a classroom, but when you walk along the road, when you sit together, when you look up at the same sky. When you take your child's hand and walk outside, that time can become a time of learning, a time of connection, and a time of experiencing God together. So, Why not take your child's hand and go outside, even today? If this video was helpful, please subscribe and give it a like.